Chapter 1. Biome. Holy shit. Colonel Victor Karras finished the thought mid-air. He expected impact. He expected vacuum. He expected a plasma furnace. He did not expect flight. The portal's light died instantly, replaced by a harsh, stinging violet glow. The air, thick, humid, hot like a sauna doused in vinegar, slammed into his lungs. Karras was falling. Below, about 150 feet down, stretched a carpet. Not green, not gray. It was the color of venous blood, pulsing, alive. "Group up!" he yelled, though his earpiece was dead. No comms. Figures fell beside him. Salim tumbling like a rag doll. Tech clutching the case to his chest. Impact. Karras didn't hit the ground. He crashed through the canopy. Branches, thick, slick like intestines, sprung back, whipping his face, breaking his fall. Crunch. Pain in his shoulder. He hung there. The world spun. Colored spots danced in his eyes. "Doc," he wheezed. Silence. Only the sounds of the jungle. Not birdsong, but a wet, squelching grind, like the forest was chewing on itself. Karras hung upside down, his leg tangled in a vine. The vine was warm, and it vibrated. He reached for the knife at his belt. His fingers slipped on the handle. Humidity here was 100%. Snick. He cut the bonds and dropped, landing in soft, spongy mud. He got on all fours, spat out a clump of violet moss. "Great landing, Colonel," he muttered to himself. 10 out of 10. He looked around. It was a botanist's hell. Trees resembled giant mushrooms dripping with glowing slime. The grass moved, though there was no wind. The sky wasn't visible behind the weave of the canopy, but light broke through. Poisonous purple. "Salim!" Karras barked. His voice sounded muffled, like cotton in his ears. The atmosphere was denser than Earth's. "Here," a weak moan from the left. Karras crashed through the bushes. Leaves hissed, curling away from his touch. Salim lay in a puddle of some goo. His face was gray, eyes rolled back. "Doc, report!" The scientist jerked, retched. Bile. "Nitrogen," he wheezed. "Lot of nitrogen. And ammonia. Breathe. Shallow." Karras hauled him up. Salim was light. Too light. "Gravity," the doc said as if reading his mind. 0.8 Earth. We're supermen here, Victor. We're dead men here if we don't find a weapon. Where's Tech? Don't know. Jumped. After me. Karras checked his rifle. Barrel clogged with slime. Bolt jammed. He swore. "The scar is shit," he growled, tossing the useless hunk of metal aside. "Draw your pistol, Doc." At that moment, the bushes rustled. It wasn't wind, and not an animal. It was the bush itself. A tuber the size of a barrel suddenly opened, revealing rows of razor-sharp petals. A thorn shot from the center. Karras instinctively yanked Salim aside. The thorn buried itself in the tree behind them, and the wood hissed. Acid. "Run!" Karras yelled. But there was nowhere to run. The whole forest around them came alive. Roots surged up, trying to grab their legs. Vines dropped from above like nooses. This wasn't a predator attack. This was an immune response. We are a virus, Karras realized. This world is trying to cure us. "To the rocks!" Salim pointed to a dark outcrop in the distance where vegetation was sparse. They ran, stumbling, sliding on slime. Gravity helped. Every step became a giant leap. Karis felt like a grasshopper in a jar of spiders. A scream came from behind. Human. Tech! Karis skidded to a stop, turning. The technician hung about 30 feet off the ground. A vine coiled around his torso, dragging him up toward the toothed maw of an overgrown flower. Sir, help! Karis didn't think. He drew Salim's pistol and opened fire. The shots boomed in the dense air like cannons. Bullets tore through the plant's flesh, violet juice spraying. The vine twitched and let go. Tech plummeted. Up! Karis grabbed him. Where's the case? Lost it. Back there. Screw it. Move! They reached the rocky ridge, gasping for air. Here the plants retreated, as if the stone was poison to them. Karis leaned back against the warm basalt. His heart hammered somewhere in his throat. He looked at his people. Salim wiped his glasses with shaking hands. Tech cradled a broken arm. Welcome to the other side, Karis said, spitting thick saliva. Locals aren't friendly. It's incredible, Salim whispered. He wasn't looking at the jungle. He was looking at the sky. There, in a gap between the canopies, hung moons. 3 of them, different sizes. We aren't in the solar system, he said. Not even close. Karis patted his pockets. Canteen empty. Knife present. Radio dead. Recycling, the colonel said grimly, watching the grass below swallow the glove Tech had dropped. Nothing goes to waste here. We're next. Chapter 2. First Contact. They walked for 3 hours, or 3 days. Time felt different here. The moons barely moved. The lighting remained the same nauseating purple. Salim walked hard. With every breath, his wheeze got louder. Lungs, he whispered at a rest stop, spitting thick mucus. Burn. We need filters. Karis kept quiet. He watched the jungle. The jungle watched him. Thousands of tiny eyes on stalks turned to follow them. It wasn't paranoia. It was biology. Tech, what about radar? He asked without turning. The technician fiddled with the surviving PDA. The screen flickered, showing static. Interference, sir. Electromagnetic background here is insane. But I'm catching a weird signal. Ours? No. Rhythmic. 3 short, pause, 1 long. That's not nature. That's code. Direction? Tech waved a hand toward a ridge of rocks that looked like rotten fangs. That way, about a mile out. Let's move. They came out onto a clearing littered with bones. Enormous ones. Ribs the size of buses stuck out of the ground, covered in fungus. Whatever lived here before, it was gigantic. And it died. Quiet. Karis raised a hand. Sound. Clicking. Click, click, click. Like someone knocking stone against stone. Or metal against chitin. A shadow crawled out from behind a giant rib. At first, Karis thought it was a tank. The creature was low, wide, with an angular shell that gleamed like polished obsidian. 6 legs. The front 2 didn't end in paws, but something like tools? That's not an animal, Salim exhaled. Look at the joints. That's mechanics. Karis raised the pistol. Hold fire. Wait. The creature, spider, Karas christened it, froze. Its head, a flat turret with multiple lenses, turned toward them. The lenses flashed red. Click, click! The sound became sharp, demanding. "It's scanning us," Tech squeaked. "I said don't shoot," Karas repeated, feeling sweat run down his spine. The spider took a step forward, then another. Slowly, carefully. And then Tech broke. Nerves snapped. He raised his pistol and fired, right into the central lens. The ring of a ricochet cut the air. The bullet grazed the shell and went into the sky. "Idiot!" Karas roared. The spider reacted instantly. A module extended from its back, a short, thick barrel. Flash. Not a laser. Plasma bolt? Karas didn't have time to figure it out. He saw the rock next to Tech explode, showering them with stone shrapnel. "Cover!" They dove behind the bone ribs. Overhead it whistled and thundered. This spider was walking artillery. "We pissed it off!" Salim yelled, covering his head with his arms. "Tech pissed it off!" Karas peeked out. The spider wasn't running. It was suppressing them with fire methodically, pinning them to the ground. Smart. Assault tactics. "It has a blind spot!" Karas shouted. "Rear! Its aft section is exposed!" "How do you know?" "I'm a soldier, Doc. I see how it moves. It protects its ass, keeps it against the rocks." A plan formed instantly. A stupid, suicidal plan. "Tech, distract it. Shoot in the air, yell, throw rocks. Doc, stay down." "I'll try to flank." Karas crawled. Mud clogged his sleeves. Acid grass stung his palms, but he ignored it. Adrenaline dulled the pain. Thoughts became crystal clear. Kill or die. Simple logic. He made a loop, pushing through mushroom thickets. The spider continued pounding Tech's position. Boom. Boom. Methodical. Emotionless. Karas ended up behind the thing, 30 feet so. He stood up. The rear of the spider really looked different. No armor there. A soft blue glow pulsed inside a translucent sac. Fuel tank? Or brain? Don't care, Karas thought. He sprinted. Gravity threw him 15 feet per stride. Jump! He landed on the creature's back. The chitin was hot, burning. The spider screeched, an electronic grinding sound, and started spinning, trying to buck the rider. Karas grabbed a protrusion with his left hand, and with his right drove the army knife into the blue glow. To the hilt. A crackle, like a short circuit. The spider jerked, legs buckling. Not blood, but thick blue fluid, smelling of ozone and burnt plastic, sprayed from the wound. The beast collapsed. The barrel on its back slumped impotently. Karas rolled onto the ground, breathing hard. The knife stayed in the enemy's body. Done, he exhaled. Salim and Tech emerged from cover. They looked at the fallen giant with horror. Doc approached first. He didn't look at the weapon. He looked at the torn-open tank. "Victor," Salim's voice trembled. "Look at this." Karas walked over. Inside the shell, in a mess of wires and flesh, sat a creature. Small, shriveled, looking like a dried embryo with a huge brain. It was connected to the machine by dozens of tubes. It was dead. Karas's knife had pierced its chest. "That's not a robot," Salim whispered. "That's an exoskeleton. That's a pilot." He pointed to a panel in front of the dead pilot. Symbols flickered there, geometric shapes, and among them, in the corner of the screen, Karas saw a sign that made his insides go cold. A spiral. The same symbol that was on the gates on Earth. They aren't locals, Karas said. They came through the gates, like us. He wiped blue slime on his pants. The slime didn't wipe off. It stained the skin like a brand. "We aren't on the other side," he whispered. "We're just in a different trench. And we just started friendly fire." Chapter 3. Symbiosis. The siren wailed. The sound didn't come from speakers, but from the dead spider's body itself. A high-pitched screech bordering on ultrasound that made teeth ache. "Sir!" Tech jabbed, panic-stricken at his tablet. "Tons of signals! They're coming here! From all sides!" "How many?" 10? 20? Damn, the whole forest is moving!" Karas looked at the pilot's corpse. The small, shriveled body was turning black fast in the air, decomposing in seconds. "Doc," the colonel said very quietly, "if they come and see this, they'll grind us to dust. We need to, I don't know, surrender?" "Surrender?" Salim nervously wiped his glasses. "Victor, we just killed their brother. To them, we're aggressive fauna, rabid monkeys with a grenade." "You have a better idea?" "I do. Math." "What?" "The only universal language in the universe. If they built these machines, they know math." The bushes around the clearing crackled. Karas raised a hand. "Tech, weapons on the ground. Hands up. Doc, you're on. If you screw this up, we fry." The first spider stepped out of the jungle a minute later. It was bigger than the one they killed. Darker armor, longer barrel. 2 more followed. Then more. They surrounded the humans in a tight ring. Lenses burned with furious crimson light. Barrels jerked up, aiming at the humans. Karas felt his muscles tense, readying to jump. A useless jump. You can't dodge plasma. One of the spiders, the commander apparently, made a sharp chattering sound and stepped toward the corpse of its kin. It touched the broken hull with a manipulator, then turned to Karas. The muzzle looked right into the colonel's face. It began to glow. Charge building. "Now!" Salim yelled. The scientist dropped to his knees right in the mud. He grabbed a rock and started scratching something on a flat shard of the giant bone. Scritch, scritch. The spider paused. Salim drew a right triangle, and then squares on each of its sides. Pythagorean theorem. He lifted the tablet over his head, showing it to the machines. His hands shook so hard the bone danced. "Look!" he screamed. "We are sapient! We know geometry! We aren't animals!" Silence. Only the hum of plasma generators. The spider commander tilted its head. Its lenses blinked. Red changed to yellow? It walked up to Salim. A mechanical leg slapped the bone out of the scientist's hands. Salim cried out, curling into a ball. The spider raised a manipulator. A thin stylus extended from the tip. Laser cutter. The machine drew a beam across the mud. A circle, and a line crossing it. And then a row of dots. 3, 1, 4, 1, 5. Pi. "Oh, God," Salim exhaled, and there was more awe than fear in his voice. "Contact. Victor, it's contact." The spider chattered again. This time the sound was softer. The other machines lowered their barrels. The commander pointed a manipulator at the dead pilot, then at Karas. Then crossed manipulators in a sign resembling an X. "What's he saying?" Tech asked, peeking from behind the colonel. "He's asking why we killed him if we're rational," Salim translated. "Or he's saying we're criminals." Karas stepped forward, pushing Doc aside. He knew what he was doing. This wasn't the language of math. This was the language of war. He slowly pulled out his pistol. The spiders raised weapons again. Karras flipped the pistol grip forward and held it out to the commander. "We were defending ourselves," he said firmly, looking into the machine's lenses. "We didn't want war. War. No war." The spider didn't take the pistol. Instead, a beam of light shot from its hull. A hologram. An image hung over the clearing, first fuzzy, then focusing. It was a map. A 3D projection of the galaxy? No, it was a map of this place. Jungle, mountains, and in the center, a massive black tower piercing the heavens. Red dots pulsed around the tower. Enemies. The spider pointed at the tower, then at the humans, then at itself. "Alliance," Salim said. "He's offering an alliance. They need to go there too, to the Citadel." "What for?" Karras asked. The image changed. Now it wasn't jungles. It was the spider's planet. Crystal cities, beautiful, sparkling geometries. And then, a shadow. A vast, shapeless shadow covered their world. Cities crumbled. Not from bombs, they just vanished, sucked into the void. The architects, Tech realized, they destroyed their world. Not destroyed, Karras corrected. Recycled. The spider cut the hologram. It walked right up to Karras. The metal smelled of ozone and alien chemicals. The machine extended a manipulator, not for a handshake. A port opened at the claw tip. "Does he need our data?" Tech asked. Karras nodded to Tech at his tablet. "Plug in. Gives them everything we have on the gates. And download everything they have." The technician connected the cable with trembling hands. A second. 2. "Sir," Tech's eyes went wide. "You won't believe it. Their language, it's binary, but the structure. They call themselves the Syndicate. And they've been here for 10 years. 10 years? Karras looked around. "And how many are left?" Tech looked at the data. They came with an army of 10,000 units. Remaining, 42. Karras looked at the spiders with new eyes. This wasn't a patrol. It was the remnants of a shattered regiment. Veterans who survived hell. 42, he repeated. And 3 humans. Great army to storm the Citadel of Gods. He nodded to the commander. "We're with you." The spider made a short sound, like receipt confirmation. Then it turned and pointed at the jungle. There, in the darkness of the purple thickets, something moved. Something huge. The ground shook. "What is that?" Salim asked. The technician turned pale, looking at the screen. "The cleaner, sir. Biomechanical perimeter guard. And it's tracking us." Karras picked up the alien plasma module that had broken off the dead spider. It was heavy, but the grip fit his hand comfortably. "Well," he said, grinning a predatory, mean smile, "let's show the local fauna what evolution means." The spider commander looked at him, and its lenses blinked green. Chapter 4. The Hunt. The ground didn't just shake. It groaned, like metal bending under a press. The jungle parted. Trees were ripped up by the roots, tossed aside like matchsticks. A hulk rose from the darkness of the purple thickets. The cleaner didn't look like an insect or a beast. It looked like an animated strip mining excavator built from bone, meat, and rusted steel. 3 legs, columns covered in armor plates, body, a tangle of muscle and hydraulics. No head. In the center of the body spun a grinder lined with teeth. "Jesus Christ," Tech whispered, backing away. "Fire!" Kara screamed. "All barrels, on the legs!" You don't need to learn a language to understand the order. Shoot. 42 spiders opened fire simultaneously. Blue flashes of plasma slammed into the cleaner, turning the clearing into a strobe light show. The monster's armor hissed, melting. The smell of burning flesh choked the air. The cleaner roared, sound like a freight train derailing. It struck. With one leg, it simply swept a group of spiders away like bowling pins. A crunch of chitin and sparks. "Scatter!" Karas commanded, diving behind a boulder. He switched the plasma module to overload mode. Salim showed how. "Press this rune and pray." He fired. The energy bolt slammed into the monster's leg joint. Hydraulics burst, spraying black oil. The cleaner staggered. "It works!" Salim yelled. "Victor, they're slow, but powerful. We need mobility." "Tell that to them!" Karas pointed at the spiders. The Syndicate machines fought bravely, but predictably. They stood in a line, pouring fire on the enemy. They died like 18th century soldiers in front of a machine gun. "Commander!" Karas jumped from cover and waved his arms at the spider leader. "No! No line! Circle! Circle him!" He drew a circle in the air. The spider understood. It emitted a series of clicks. The remnants of the squad moved. They started spreading out, surrounding the cleaner, stinging it from all sides like a swarm of wasps. The monster spun, not knowing who to hit first. Its grinder churned the air uselessly. "Doc!" Karas ran to Salim. "Can this module punch through its hull?" "Doubt it. Armor's too thick. Need to hit from inside." "Inside? Great plan. Who's climbing down its throat? You?" "No. Gravity." Salim pointed to the overhanging cliff under which the battle raged. The rock overhang held on a prayer and a couple of thick roots. "If we drop that on him..." "Got it. Tech." "Yes, sir? Any explosives left?" "Only a couple of C4 bricks in my pocket." "But no detonator. I lost the case." "Make a timer out of your tablet. Out of a watch. Out of sticks and shit. You have a minute." Spiders were dying. The cleaner adapted to their tactics. It vented a cloud of corrosive gas from its hull. 3 machines simply dissolved, turning into puddles of slime. "Faster! Ready!" Tech handed Karas the brick with a wire taped to it. 10 seconds! "Not enough, damn it! That's all I got!" Karas looked at the spider commander. It was firing back with its last strength, covering the retreat of the wounded. "Someone has to throw this on the cliff." Karas was about to run, but the commander beat him to it. The spider saw the explosive in the human's hand. It saw the cliff. It calculated the trajectory. Its processor output. Probability of human success, 12%. Probability of Syndicate success, 89%. The commander sprinted to Karas. It didn't attack. It snatched the C4 with the manipulator. "Hey!" Karas shouted. The spider looked at him. Lenses didn't blink. 0100010001. Goodbye? In order? The spider turned and jumped. The 0.8 gravity acted as a catapult. The machine flew up 150 feet straight to the base of the rock overhang. The cleaner noticed movement. A harpoon shot from its body. The serrated tip punched through the spider in midair, through and through. The commander jerked, hanging on the cable. Blue ichor gushed out. But he was still alive, and he was already under the cliff. Kara saw the manipulator with the C4 jam into a crack in the stone. "Down!" the colonel screamed. Boom! The explosion was small, but it was enough. The overhang, thousands of tons of basalt, cracked off. It fell like the hammer of a god. The cleaner didn't even have time to roar. It was simply flattened. Meat, metal, bone. Everything turned into a wet stain under the stone slab. Silence. Dust slowly settled in the purple light. They emerged from cover. Of the forest, a clearing remained. Of the cleaner, a puddle. And of the commander. Karis walked to where the harpoon hung. The severed cable dangled in the wind. The remaining spiders, only a dozen left, gathered around. One of them approached the debris left of their leader. It picked up a piece of melted armor. Machines didn't cry. They made a sound. A low, humming sound that vibrated the chest cavity. A requiem at 40 hertz. Karis took off his helmet, which he didn't have, just ran a hand through dirty hair. "He saved us," Salim said quietly. "He calculated his life was worth less than the mission." "No," Karis cut him off. "He calculated that we'd make it, and he wouldn't." The colonel walked up to the spiders. They didn't aim weapons at him. They parted, letting him through to the grave. Karis put a hand on the shoulder of the nearest spider. It was warm and rough. "We won't let this go to waste," he said. "Hear me, tin cans? We burn this damn garden to the ground." The spider turned its head to him. Lenses blinked. Blue, the color of alliance. Karis picked up the commander's weapon from the ground, a heavy double-barreled emitter. "Move out," he commanded. "The tower waits." Chapter 5. Artifacts. The ruins didn't look built. They looked grown. Black obelisks sprouted through the jungle like a giant's rotten teeth. The material wasn't stone and wasn't metal. It was warm, and it hummed. "This isn't a city," Salim said, touching the smooth surface of a wall. "This is a server rack." They had walked for an hour. A squad of 12 spiders and 3 humans. A strange procession in hell. Karis hauled the commander's emitter. The weapon weighed 80 pounds, but in low gravity felt no heavier than a rifle. That wasn't the problem. It radiated heat, burning his side through the torn jumpsuit. "Hey, Ironsides," he nodded to the spiders. "You know how to turn this crap on?" The spiders were silent. They had stopped making sounds altogether after the leader's death. They just walked. Robots who lost their purpose? Or soldiers now listening to him? They came out to the center of the ruins, a circular plaza. In the middle, a bowl of the same black material filled with silvery liquid. The liquid boiled, though there was no heat. "Power source?" Tech guessed. Salim shook his head. "Interface," he said, and stepped toward the bowl. "Doc!" Karis jerked, but Salim raised a hand. "Victor, we can't punch through to the tower with a dozen cripples and one gun. We need to understand how this works." Salim took off his glasses. His eyes shone with feverish glint. "I have to know." He plunged his hands into the silvery goo. Silence. And then Salim screamed. It wasn't a scream of pain. It was the scream of a man whose brain is trying to digest the universe. Karis lunged to him, but was thrown back by an invisible wall. "Don't touch!" Salim's voice changed. It sounded polyphonic, like a choir. Doc's body arched. Silver crawled up his arms, soaking into the skin. Veins turned black, then flashed neon blue. "I see," Salim wheezed. "I see them." "Who?" "The gardeners." Salim opened his eyes. There were no eyes. Instead, pure white void shone. "They aren't evil, Victor. They are tired." The liquid absorbed completely. Salim fell to his knees, breathing hard. The glow in his veins slowly faded, but eyes remained white. Karis jumped to him, grabbed him by the lapels. "You alive? What did you do, idiot?" Salim looked at him and smiled. A creepy, all-knowing smile. "I connected to the local network. This isn't just a forest, Victor. It's a farm. They grow worlds to harvest energy. Biomass, emotions, mind. All this is fuel." "Fuel for what?" "For the barrier." Salim pointed to the sky. "There, beyond the galaxy's edge, is something. Void. Entropy. It eats stars. The architects build a wall of energy to hold it back. We are just coal in the furnace to them." "Hell of a story," Karis spat. "So we have to die so the universe lives?" "That is what they believe." "And I believe they can go to hell. Can we turn this off?" Salim stood up. He moved differently. Smoother. Faster. "Now I can. I see access codes. I see patrol routes in the tower. I see frequencies their turrets work on." He turned to the Spider Squad. The Syndicate machines suddenly froze, then synchronously bowed their turret heads. "You control them now?" Tech asked fearfully. "No, I just translated the objective into their native language." Salim reached for the emitter in Karis's hands. "Give me that." "Why?" "Optimization." Salim touched the weapon. His fingers, covered in a silvery web of veins, danced over the hull. He pressed something, twisted something, punched something. The weapon hummed. The tone became higher, cleaner. "Removed the limiter," Salim explained. "Now you have 50 shots before overheat, not 10, and power times 3. Karis looked at the doc. This skinny Four Eyes in a torn lab coat scared him more than the cleaner now. "How are you, Doc? Head hurt?" "Hurts," Salim admitted, and his voice for a second became his old human one. "I hear everything, every tree, every scream. Victor, I'm scared. If we don't turn this off, I'll go insane." Karis put a hand on his shoulder. "We turn it off, or break it." He hoisted the upgraded gun. "Lead us, Neo." Salim nodded. His wide eyes looked through the jungle, through stone, through reality. "Straight, Sector 7, ventilation shaft, minimal security." "Move!" They moved out. Now it wasn't a squad of survivors. It was a liquidation squad. With a walking supercomputer at point and a colonel holding death in his hands. The jungle parted. Plants smelled Salim and retracted thorns. They went to kill gods. Chapter 6. The Citadel. The tower wasn't a building. It was an organism. As soon as they entered the massive triangular gates, Salim opened them simply by swiping a finger through the air. The walls began to scream. It was the sound of stone grinding on metal. "Warning!" Doc yelled. "Immunity protocol! It's reconfiguring!" The floor under their feet shuddered and tilted. The corridor, straight moments ago, twisted into a spiral. "Gravity!" Karis shouted, falling onto the wall, which was now the floor. Spiders reacted instantly. Their magnetic legs dug into the surface. Humans had it worse. Tech tumbled down into the blackness of the shaft. "Gotcha!" Karis managed to grab his belt. "Thanks, sir." Tech was green from motion sickness. "Form up! Salim, where to?" The scientist stood amidst chaos, absolutely calm. Holographic symbols swirled around him, visible to everyone now. He conducted this madness. "Left," he commanded. "No." He clenched a fist. The wall on the left burst, flying apart into pixels. A passage opened behind it. "Run!" They sprinted into the hole. Behind their backs, the corridor slammed shut, turning into monolithic stone. "It's trying to isolate us," Salim explained, not slowing pace. "Separate, crush one by one. Stay close. I'm creating a stability bubble." They ran up endless stairs that changed direction like in an Escher painting. Sometimes gravity disappeared entirely, and they floated, pushing off the ceiling. The encounter with security happened on the 60th floor. Elevator, or airlock, doors slid apart, and droids poured out. Small, agile, looking like silver spheres with blades. Hundreds of spheres. "Swarm!" Karis shouted. He pulled the trigger. The modernized emitter didn't shoot. It belched a wave of pure energy. A beam wide as the corridor swept the first wave of droids, vaporizing them instantly. Walls frosted over. "Whoa!" Karis looked at the smoking barrel. "I like this toy." Spiders added fire, creating a wall of plasma. The swarm melted, but spheres kept coming, like water from a broken dam. "Too many!" Tech yelled, shooting his pistol blind. "Salim!" Karis barked. "Do something! Turn them off!" "Can't! They're autonomous!" Salim manipulated the air, building virtual shields the spheres smashed against. "But I can change the battlefield." Doc raised both hands and slammed them down. Voom! Gravity in the corridor spiked tenfold. Spheres simply fell to the floor, flattened under their own weight. Metal crumpled like paper. Humans were pinned too. Karis dropped to his knees, feeling joints crack. "Enough," he wheezed. "Turn off." Salim snapped his fingers. Pressure vanished. The floor was littered with metal pancakes. "Let's go." Salim's voice became colorless. Blood ran from his nose. "We're close. Summit in 2 levels." They rose to the last floor. There were no walls here, just a huge dome, transparent from inside. Through it, stars were visible. And gates. Hundreds, no, thousands of gates hung in space around the planet. They shimmered like a garland, and from every gate, a beam of energy stretched to the tower. "That's it," Tech whispered. "Central hub." In the center of the hall hovered a throne, or a control panel. Rings of light rotated around it, and on the throne sat someone. Not a monster, not a robot. The creature was humanoid, tall, thin, woven of light and geometry. It had no face, only a mask with a single symbol, a spiral. "The Watcher," Salim said. The creature stood. It was 10 feet tall. It didn't attack. It spoke. The voice sounded right in all 3 heads. It wasn't speech. It was thought. "Why do you interrupt the process?" "Process?" Karis stepped forward, raising the emitter. "You call genocide a process?" This is not genocide. This is harvest. We gather only ripe fruit. The Watcher waved a hand. A hologram of Earth appeared in the air. It was burning. Your world is sick. It consumes itself. We offer salvation, merger with unity, eternity in digital. Eternity is a battery? Kara smirked. Thanks, I'll pass. You do not understand. Darkness is near. Only the barrier can stop it. Better to sacrifice 1,000,000 worlds than lose the entire universe. Typical tyrant logic, Salim said. I kill you for your own good. The scientist stepped forward. I saw the code, Watcher. I know the barrier is almost finished. You don't need Earth. You're just greedy. The creature froze. Its radiance turned red. You saw the code? You are infected. I'm not infected. I'm enlightened. Salim turned to Karis. Victor, hold him. I need 5 minutes at the console. I'll rewrite coordinates. To where? Home. I'll reverse the flow. I'll close the gates from this side. Do it! Karis raised the gun. Hey, lamppost! He shouted to the Watcher. Let's dance? The Watcher raised a hand. The floor under Karis turned to lava. The Colonel jumped, shooting in midair. The final battle began. The final battle began. Chapter 7. Source Code. Colonel Victor Karis fought gods before. Well, metaphorically. But this was for real. The Watcher was fast. He didn't run. He flickered, appearing left, then right, leaving a trail of photons. Karis led his shots. Plasma boiled, slamming into the floor, the throne, walls. Distract him! Salim yelled, fingers flying over the holographic console keyboard. Trying! Karis barked. The Watcher appeared right in front of him, soundlessly. The blow was so hard, Karis was thrown across the hall. He slammed into the transparent dome wall, and the glass cracked. Ribs answered with a crunch. Your resistance is illogical. The creature raised a hand. Air around the Colonel thickened, turning into a press. Sir! Tech popped from cover. In his hands was that same Spider Commander plasma module? Where did he get it? Tech fired, clumsily, crookedly, squeezing eyes shut. But he hit. The energy clot hit the Watcher in the back. The force field flickered. The press vanished. Karis fell to the floor, gasping for air. You little shit! The Watcher, or his projection, turned the mask to Tech. Salim, now! Karis wheezed. Done! Doc screamed. Coordinates locked! I reversed thrust vector! The tower will collapse now! The whole hall shook. Stars behind the dome swam, turning into blurred lines. Gravity went crazy. Floor and ceiling switched places. Error. Critical failure. System unstable. The Watcher's voice broke into thousands of digital glitches. Into the portal! Salim pointed to the center of the hall, where instead of the throne, a black vortex now swirled. It's a direct channel! Home! What about you? Karis grabbed Tech, who hung clutching the console edge. I'm holding the channel open! Jump! I'm right behind you! No! Together! Karis grabbed Salim by the coat collar. We came together, we leave together. Go! He threw Tech into the vortex. He vanished with a yell. The Watcher, or what was left of him, a clot of furious light, lunged at them. I will not allow. Karis raised the modernized emitter. Charge was 0, but the overheated power block remained. "Eat up," the colonel said. He ripped out the glowing block and threw it right into the creature's glowing face. Explosion. Light swallowed light. In that second, Karis and Salim jumped into the black hole. Darkness. Cold. Smell of ozone. And gravity. Heavy, native Earth gravity. They hit concrete. Hard. "Attention, unidentified objects in Sector 0. Security to combat." Searchlight beams hit their eyes. Voices, dog barks, helicopter noise. Karis rolled onto his back. He lay on concrete airfield slab. Above hung gray, boring, beautiful Earth sky. Rain. Ordinary, wet rain. Not acid. He laughed. Hoarsely, painfully, but happily. Nearby, a pile of rags moved. Salim. "Are we home?" the scientist asked. "Home, Doc. Home." Men in barrier uniforms ran to them, weapons ready. "Hands behind heads! Down!" Karis slowly raised his hands. "Friendlies, boys," he croaked. "Colonel Karis, Task Force Anti-Gravity. Mission accomplished." Epilogue. 3 months later. General Haig's office was clean and sterile, like the report lying on the desk. "So, the gates are destroyed?" the general asked, not looking at Karis. "Affirmative. The tower on the other side collapsed. Link severed." "And technology? Did you bring anything?" "Only what was in our heads, and a couple of scars." The general sighed. "Pity. We could have... Well, all right. You are dismissed, Colonel. Medals await." Karis walked out of the office. Tech waited in the corridor. He was in a new uniform with lieutenant's bars. "Where now, sir?" "Vacation, son. Fishing. Somewhere with no jungles and no robots." "And Doc?" "Doc, he's in the lab. Says he has to finish something." Karis walked to the window. Behind the glass in the research wing sat Salim. He watched a monitor where endless streams of code ran. Salim didn't wear glasses. He didn't need them anymore. He felt Karis's gaze and turned. His eyes were brown, ordinary. But when he blinked, for a fraction of a second, a white spark flashed deep in the pupil. A digit. Salim smiled and barely noticeably nodded, and then returned to the code. Karis shivered, though the corridor was warm. "You know," he told Tech, "I think fishing will have to wait." He took out his phone. "Why, sir?" On the phone screen, which was off, words lit up by themselves. "The universe is a farm, and the gardener is already here." Karis looked at Salim. He continued typing. "Because looks like we brought the other side with us." End of Book 2.